I live alone. When something moves in my apartment, there's only one person it could be. And that's what I told myself the first time I noticed the spare key wasn't where I left it. It was small, barely noticeable, just slightly angled on the hook near the door. But I remember stopping, looking at it longer than I should have. I don't touch that key unless I need it, and I hadn't needed it. Not that day, not the day before either. I adjusted it back into place and went about my night. When you live alone, you assume it's you. You assume you forgot or weren't paying attention. That's the default. But the next morning, it was different again. Not in the same way, just enough to feel wrong if you were actually looking at it. That's when I started paying attention. Before I go any further, I'm curious. If you're listening to this right now, where are you? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy quiet, unsettling stories like this, maybe subscribe. Not everyone likes being alone with them. That morning, I left for work, locking the door the way I always do. I remember checking it twice, as always, just to be sure. When I returned that evening, the door was locked exactly as I left it. But something inside wasn't. The first few nights, nothing happened. Or maybe I just didn't notice. It started with small things. The kitchen light left on, even though I swore I turned it off. The coffee mug I always leave on the counter was rotated slightly. Just little things, insignificant on their own, but together, unsettling. At first, I rationalized everything. I was tired. I must be forgetting. I was imagining it. That's what you do when you live alone. You try to explain the unexplainable away, but the inconsistencies kept piling up. Objects slightly moved, doors unlocked when I knew I locked them, and keys, never where they should have been. I began documenting everything. Every time I left for work, every time I came home, every minor shift in the apartment. Day by day, it grew harder to ignore. I started noticing patterns. The key, the light, the mug. They weren't random. They occurred only when I wasn't looking, only when I wasn't aware. And then I bought a camera, just one of those old phones propped on a shelf facing the door. I told myself it was just reassurance, nothing more. The first few nights, nothing appeared. Hours of empty footage. I began doubting myself again. Maybe I was overreacting. But then it happened. It was late, at around 2:15 a.m. The apartment was completely silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I was lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I heard the front door open. Not abruptly, not with force, just open, slowly, carefully. I froze. My heart started to race, but I didn't move. The camera was there. I wasn't imagining it this time. I watched the footage the next morning. At first, nothing. Then, at 2:15 a.m., the door slowly creaked open. A figure stepped inside, calm, deliberate, like someone who had done it before. They walked to the key hook, adjusted the spare key slightly, then turned and left, closing the door quietly behind them. I replayed it again and again and again. Every movement precise. No one else in the frame, no signs of forced entry. I didn't report it, didn't call the police, I just left. I packed a bag and stayed elsewhere that night. The next morning, I had the locks changed, new keys. Nothing moved after that, or so I thought. Weeks later, I realized something worse. It wasn't the key, it wasn't the door, it was the feeling. Even with new locks, I never felt alone again. Every noise made me flinch. The hum of the refrigerator sounded like footsteps. Shadows in the corner of my vision seemed deliberate. Something had been inside my apartment, and I hadn't even known it. I never found out who it was, and I never will. The only thing I know is how carefully someone can walk into your life, move things just slightly, and leave without a trace, but still leave a mark you'll feel every single day. Sometimes, I look at that key hook, now empty, and I wonder if it was over, or if it's just waiting for me to forget, and for me to be careless, for it to happen again. And that's when I stopped assuming that being alone means being safe. The first time it happened, I thought it was coming from outside, something distant, easy to ignore. I was lying in bed, not fully asleep, that strange place between consciousness and dreams, where the hum of the apartment becomes a presence in itself. And then I heard it. My name. Not loud, not urgent, just said. Calm. Familiar. Spoken like someone was standing in the doorway, trying not to wake anyone else. I froze. My heart thumped in my chest, louder than the voice itself. I didn't move, I just listened. The apartment was silent, perfectly silent. No footsteps, no movement, nothing. I told myself it was a trick of the mind, maybe a dream carried over. That's the excuse I clung to at first. The next night, and it happened again, same time, same tone. My name, clear, precise, but no one was there. I got out of bed slowly, every step deliberate, listening. The hallway was empty. The apartment remained quiet, except for my own breathing. I checked the doors, the windows, everything locked, everything exactly as it should have been. I started noticing little things about the apartment that I had ignored for years. How sound travels differently at night. How the pipes groan, how the fridge hums, how every footstep, every creak, every whisper of air feels magnified when you're alone. That's when I realized I had never really been alone. Over the next week, it became a pattern. Not every night, but enough to make me anxious. Always my name. Always when I was least expecting it. The strange thing was, it never happened when I was awake and alert. Only when I was drifting in that half-asleep state. Only when my mind was quiet enough to notice. I began to test it, staying awake, sitting in the dark, trying to catch it. Nothing. Completely silent. It was as if it had a schedule, waiting for the perfect moment to appear. I set up my phone as a recording device on the nightstand. I wanted proof, something objective to show me I wasn't imagining it. I started recording the entire night, letting it run for hours. The first recording was nothing. Silence. The second, the same. I almost stopped, but I left it running again. Then it happened. Around 2:47 a.m., I heard it. My name, exactly as I remembered, coming from just outside the bedroom. I didn't move. I stayed perfectly still. Nothing else. No footsteps, no figure, just the voice. The next morning, I played the recording. I fast-forwarded, holding my breath, expecting to hear the same thing. But there was nothing, completely flat. Hours of audio and nothing at that exact moment. My mind raced. I replayed it, adjusted volume, headphones, nothing. That's when the fear shifted. It wasn't a sound I could capture. It wasn't something that existed outside of the moment I heard it. It existed in me, or at least that's what it felt like. Days turned into weeks. Sometimes it would happen twice in one night. Sometimes it wouldn't happen at all. I stopped trying to predict it. I stopped trying to trap it. Checking doors, checking windows, reviewing footage. It changed nothing. Nothing explained it. I began noticing other sounds, subtle ones I had ignored before. A soft tap in the kitchen, a faint creak above my head. Or the hum of the fridge that always seemed just slightly louder. And with each sound, the memory of my name being called made me flinch, made my heart tighten. One night, it was different. The voice didn't just call my name. It whispered something else, barely audible, almost like it was testing me, waiting for my reaction. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone. It felt like recognition, as if someone or something knew I was paying attention. After that night, I stopped recording. I stopped trying to rationalize. I stopped moving toward the source. I just listened and waited for it to end. Even now, months later, when the apartment is quiet, when I'm alone, I hear it sometimes. My name, faint, calm, familiar, always at that perfect moment when my guard is down. I never know when, I never know why, I never try to catch it anymore. And because there's a part of me that doesn't want to know. There's a part of me that's terrified that acknowledging it makes it real, that listening makes it bolder, that whatever it is, it doesn't need to be heard twice to exist. And sometimes, when I wake up and the apartment is silent again, I can still feel it. The awareness of being watched, of being known, even when there's nothing there.